How could a small desert bean survive 110-degree heat without water, contain more protein than beef, and feed entire civilizations for 5,000 years? This bean wasn't just food. Indigenous farmers called it their life seed. It grew where nothing else could. It saved communities from starvation when crops failed. Then it disappeared. Not because it stopped working, but because someone decided it wasn't profitable enough. The bean is tepary. Ancient, resilient, and nearly erased from history. By the end, you'll understand why this forgotten bean outperforms meat in almost every health category. And you'll discover the shocking reason modern agriculture buried it. Stick around because what happened to this bean reveals something disturbing about who controls what we eat. Tepary beans are older than empires. Archaeologists traced their origins back over 5,000 years to the Sonoran Desert, stretching across what is now Arizona and northern Mexico. The Tohono-O'odham, Pima, and Hopi people cultivated tepary beans long before European contact. They didn't just grow them. They built entire food systems around them. What made tepary beans so valuable? Survival. These beans thrive in conditions that kill other crops. They grow in extreme heat, require almost no water, and produce food in soil where corn and squash give up completely. For desert communities facing unpredictable rainfall and scorching summers, tepary beans were insurance against famine. Ancient pots found in archaeological sites across the southwest still contain charred tepary beans, evidence of how central they were to daily life. Spanish explorers in the 1500s wrote about massive fields of these beans stretching across indigenous farmlands. They noted how native farmers could harvest abundant crops even in years when European-introduced wheat failed completely. Tepary beans weren't just a side dish. They were a complete protein source that rivaled meat, allowing communities to thrive without relying on hunting or livestock. For thousands of years, tepary beans held the line between survival and starvation. Then they vanished. Not because they stopped working, but because colonial agriculture had different priorities. If you've never heard of tepary beans, hit that like button and let's bring this ancient food back together. Picture the Sonoran Desert in July. Temperatures hitting 115 degrees. No rain for months. The ground cracked and dry. Corn wilts. Squash dies. Even cactus struggles. But tepary beans keep growing. How is this possible? Tepary beans have evolved over thousands of years to survive extreme drought. Their roots grow deep and fast, pulling moisture from far below the surface. They complete their entire life cycle, from seed to harvest, in just 60 to 90 days, before the desert heat becomes unbearable. Scientists studying climate-resilient crops call tepary beans one of the most drought-tolerant legumes on Earth. They need less than half the water required by common beans. In field trials conducted by the USDA, tepary beans produced full harvests with rainfall levels that would kill pinto or kidney beans. But drought tolerance is just the beginning. Tepary beans contain 23 to 30% protein by dry weight. That's higher than most cuts of beef, which average around 26% protein. And unlike meat, tepary bean protein is complete when combined with corn or other grains, providing all 9 essential amino acids the human body needs. For indigenous communities in the desert Southwest, this meant they could sustain themselves without constant access to game or livestock. A family could store dried tepary beans for years, and those beans would provide reliable, high-quality protein through lean times. Then there's the fiber. Tepary beans contain over 20 grams of fiber per cup when cooked, more than double what you find in meat. This fiber feeds beneficial gut bacteria, stabilizes blood sugar, and keeps you full for hours. Desert farmers working long days in brutal heat relied on tepary beans to sustain their energy from sunrise to sunset. Tepary beans are also packed with iron, magnesium, potassium, and folate. Indigenous mothers fed them to children because they knew these beans built strong bodies. Modern nutritionists analyzing tepary beans are shocked by how nutrient-dense they are compared to common beans or even lean meat. This wasn't just good nutrition. It was survival food that happened to be incredibly healthy. And for 5,000 years, it worked perfectly. But if tepary beans were this good, why did they disappear? The answer involves colonization, pride, and a food system designed to erase indigenous knowledge. That's coming up next. So why did we stop eating tepary beans? The answer is tangled up in colonization, economics, and cultural erasure. When Spanish colonizers arrived in the Americas, they saw tepary beans everywhere. Indigenous communities grew them in vast fields, stored them in clay pots, and traded them across hundreds of miles. The beans were central to ceremonies, daily meals, and long-term food security. But the Spanish had different ideas about what proper food looked like. They brought wheat, barley, and European-style agriculture with them. They viewed indigenous crops, including tepary beans, as primitive and inferior. This wasn't about nutrition. It was about control and cultural dominance. By the 1700s, Spanish missions across the Southwest were forcing indigenous people to grow European crops instead of their traditional foods. Tepary bean fields shrank. Knowledge about how to grow them, when to plant them, and how to prepare them began to fade as younger generations were pushed into European-style farming. Then came American expansion in the 1800s. As the United States took control of the Southwest, government policies actively discouraged indigenous farming practices. Reservations were established, traditional lands were taken, and native people were forced onto marginal land where even tepary beans struggled without the proper care and knowledge. By the early 1900s, tepary beans had nearly disappeared. A bean that had fed millions for 5,000 years was suddenly rare, grown only by a few elders who remembered the old ways. But the final blow came from industrial agriculture. In the mid-20th century, the United States government poured billions of dollars into subsidizing corn, wheat, and soybeans. These crops were chosen because they could be mass-produced, mechanically harvested, and shipped across the country. Tepary beans didn't fit that model. They were too small, too regional, too tied to indigenous identity. Food companies wanted uniformity. Tepary beans came in multiple varieties, colors, and sizes depending on which tribe grew them. That diversity, which had been a strength for thousands of years, became a weakness in an industrial food system that demanded standardization. There was also an image problem. By the mid-1900s, tepary beans were associated with poverty and backwardness. They were called Indian beans in a dismissive way, as if eating them meant you couldn't afford real food. White American consumers wanted modern food, which meant canned vegetables, processed meats, and Wonder Bread. Traditional native foods were seen as relics of a primitive past. Even within indigenous communities, younger generations began to view tepary beans as old-fashioned. Assimilation pressures were intense. Eating native foods marked you as different, as refusing to modernize. Many families stopped growing tepary beans not because the beans failed, but because the culture around them had been systematically dismantled. By the 1970s, tepary beans were nearly extinct outside of a few small communities in Arizona and Mexico. Seed banks held samples, but almost no one was planting them commercially. The bean that had sustained civilizations was reduced to a curiosity, a footnote in agricultural history. But something unexpected happened. A few indigenous farmers refused to let tepary beans die. Drop a comment and tell me if you've ever tasted tepary beans before. In the 1980s and 90s, as climate change began threatening global food security, scientists started looking for crops that could survive drought and extreme heat. They rediscovered tepary beans. Researchers at the University of Arizona began studying tepary beans and were stunned by what they found. These beans weren't just surviving desert conditions. They were thriving. In field trials, tepary beans outproduced common beans in hot, dry conditions by over 50%. They required less water, fewer inputs, and still delivered exceptional nutrition. Dr. Gary Nabhan, an ethnobotanist and food activist, became one of tepary beans' most vocal advocates. He worked directly with Tohono O'odham farmers to bring tepary beans back into cultivation, not as a curiosity, but as a viable commercial crop. His work helped spark a revival movement. Indigenous communities began reclaiming tepary bean seeds from seed banks. Elders who still remembered how to grow them taught younger generations. What started as a handful of families planting small plots turned into a broader movement to restore traditional foodways. Today, tepary beans are making a comeback. Native American farmers across the Southwest are growing them again, selling them at farmers markets, and supplying them to restaurants that celebrate indigenous cuisine. Chefs are rediscovering how versatile tepary beans are, using them in soups, stews, salads, and even desserts. But this isn't just about nostalgia. Tepary beans are being studied as a climate-resilient crop for the future. As water becomes scarcer and temperatures rise, the beans that sustained desert communities for 5,000 years are suddenly relevant again. The United Nations has included tepary beans in their list of underutilized crops with potential to address global food security. Seed companies are starting to offer tepary bean seeds to home gardeners. And nutritionists are promoting them as a high-protein, low-water alternative to meat. Tepary beans prove that indigenous knowledge wasn't primitive. It was sophisticated, tested over millennia, and perfectly adapted to the environment. Modern agriculture is only now catching up to what native farmers knew 5,000 years ago. And coming up, I'll show you exactly how to cook tepary beans and why they might be the healthiest protein source you've never tried. So how do you actually eat tepary beans? The good news is they're incredibly versatile. Tepary beans cook just like any other dried bean. Soak them overnight to reduce cooking time, then simmer them in water or broth for about 90 minutes until tender. They have a rich, earthy, slightly nutty flavor that works in almost any dish. Traditional Tejano o Autumn recipes include tepary bean stew with chiles and corn, tepary bean hummus, and tepary bean cakes fried until crispy. These dishes have been passed down for generations and showcase how flavorful tepary beans can be when prepared properly. Modern chefs are experimenting with tepary beans in new ways. Some roast them until crunchy for a protein-packed snack. Others blend them into soups for added thickness and nutrition. Tepary beans work beautifully in salads, tacos, burritos, and grain bowls. One of the best things about tepary beans is how filling they are. The combination of high protein and high fiber means a small serving keeps you satisfied for hours. For anyone trying to eat less meat or reduce their environmental footprint, tepary beans are an excellent alternative. And because they're drought-tolerant and require minimal inputs, growing tepary beans has a far lower environmental impact than raising livestock. 1 acre of tepary beans can produce more protein than an acre of grazing land used for cattle, all while using a fraction of the water. If you want to try tepary beans, you can find them online through Native American seed companies and specialty food suppliers. Some farmers' markets in the Southwest sell them fresh during harvest season. And if you're a gardener, you can grow them yourself. They thrive in hot, dry climates and require almost no maintenance once established. Every time you cook with tepary beans, you're participating in a food tradition that stretches back 5,000 years. You're supporting indigenous farmers who are working to restore their heritage. And you're choosing a food that's better for your health and the planet. So there you have it. Tepary beans contain more protein than most meat, survive extreme drought, and sustain civilizations for 5,000 years. Then they disappeared, not because they failed, but because colonization and industrial agriculture erased them. Now they're coming back, and it's about time. Stop relying on meat as your only protein source when you could be eating tepary beans. One simple swap gives you more fiber, more nutrients, and a direct connection to indigenous food wisdom that modern agriculture tried to bury. If you found this helpful, hit that like button and subscribe for more forgotten foods and ancient survival knowledge. Drop a comment and tell me if you're going to try tepary beans. Now go eat something that actually nourishes you and the planet.